Oh, that's good there, Fury. Ransom go right. Maybe just rolls it a bit tighter, but it still lands. There from Wilder. Good left hook as well from Wilder.
Oh, it's gone down. He's gone down. He's gone down.
Today's Top Boxing News.
D'ailleurs, peut-être un peu plus chez Viviane.
Et là, il va se
with this. Well, it appears that Luis Ortiz has until next Tuesday to decide if he wants the shot at Anthony Joshua. The article reads, Luis Ortiz has officially been offered the fight on June 1st, so reports Jeff Powell of The Mail. And the Cuban southpaw has until next Tuesday to decide if he wants the fight or not. At his age, and after continually shouting for the big fights, Ortiz, almost 40 in parentheses, yet some say even older, would be mad to turn down the fight. Surely, with over 6 weeks to go until the fight, and if Ortiz has been where he should be, in the gym, there is enough time for the once beaten by Deontay Wilder in an at times thrilling fight that saw both men hurt contender to be ready. And upon reading this article, I very much share that sentiment. I share the author's sentiment when he says that he would be mad. Ortiz would have to be mad to walk away from this opportunity. Now let me preface everything I'm about to say with this. I don't know that Luis Ortiz is going to take this fight, and I don't know that he's not going to take this fight. I don't know that he's going to jump on this opportunity or pass it up.
We'll find out soon enough.
But I will say that if by some chance he decides to walk away from this, if he doesn't take this chance, if he doesn't take this opportunity,
and he's as dumb as Miller,
then I don't want to hear anything more about this guy. I don't want to hear this guy saying this and that whenever Anthony Joshua has an opponent lined up. I don't want to hear him saying this and that in regards to Anthony Joshua
ducking him,
either being protected or never sending him an offer, because you know what? Here's your chance. Here is your shot to shoot your shot. And for a guy Luis Ortiz's age, who is
getting older,
in his late 30s, at least that's what they say, though he's rumored to really be somewhere in his early 40s. For a guy his age, time is of the essence. Time is not on your side. What I want you guys to do right now is rewind the clocks back towards the end of January and the beginning of February. At that point in time, Jarrell Miller was already announced as one of the front runners for the Anthony Joshua fight. It didn't take long for it to become official after that. But around that time, when Jarrell Miller was announced as a leading candidate for an Anthony Joshua fight, Luis Ortiz was quoted as saying, if things don't work out with Miller,
I'm up for it.
I'm available. If things don't work out with Miller, I'm available. That's coming right from the horse's mouth. Saying things like he'd fight Anthony Joshua for just about any amount of money.
Is that right?
That he is there, that he is ready, and that in his world, he's the boss, and him and his team make the final call. Why is it that when Anthony Joshua is likely to fight someone else, all of a sudden, Luis Ortiz has a lot to say? Yet throughout the duration of this fiasco involving Jarrell Miller, involving Anthony Joshua now being on the hunt for a new opponent, a replacement opponent, why is it that throughout this entire fiasco, you don't see Luis Ortiz doing interviews, do you?
Nope.
You don't see Luis Ortiz on social media.
Nope.
You don't see holding a microphone up to Luis Ortiz's face and seeing what he's got to say.
All of a sudden.
Why is it that now that Anthony Joshua is on the market for a replacement opponent, Luis Ortiz is at a loss for words? Why is that?
Strange, isn't it?
I mean, this is it. This is your chance. This is your shot. I want to remind you guys of something. These are real people that we're talking about. These are real people with real families to feed. And the way they feed their families is through what they generate, what they earn as boxers, as professional boxers. But we all know, you're not going to be able to do that forever. You're not going to be out here swapping punches at 50 years old with some 20-year-old guys climbing the ranks. Hopefully not. I mean, if you still are, then things didn't work out too good. So for a guy like Luis Ortiz, who's in his late 30s or early 40s, you know, whatever it is, whatever it really is, for a guy that age, who's who's got a family to feed. How many more of these kinds of opportunities do you think the future will hold? And if by some chance you were to walk away from this opportunity and say a Deontay Wilder rematch were to present itself, do you think that you would make more money in a Wilder rematch than you'd make today in an Anthony Joshua fight?
That's a question.
You have to ask yourself that question.
That's a question.
You know, a lot of times, the fans dehumanize these fighters. They don't think of them as being real people with the same kind of real responsibilities that me and you might have. That these guys have got bills to pay, they've got mortgages, they've got mouths to feed. They have all the same responsibilities that me and you have. The difference is they're professional fighters.
Can't do this forever.
And in being a professional fighter, that comes with an expiration date. You're not going to be able to do that forever. This is not a 9-to-5 kind of job, you understand?
Get while the getting's good.
So while these different boxing channels, run by boxing fans, members of the media, while they discuss the particulars of these kinds of situations, they don't realize, maybe it's because, you know, they're partial to a particular fighter or a particular promotional banner, and they look at it a certain way, they don't really realize that these are real people that you're talking about. And for a guy Luis Ortiz's age,
Clock's ticking.
it behooves him to jump all over this opportunity. So if he doesn't, and I don't know that he is or isn't, but if he doesn't, then that'll just be another example of how a fighter shot himself in the foot. I mean, what are you gonna do? You turn it down for what? You turn down an Anthony Joshua opportunity, a fight that you supposedly want so fucking bad. You turn that down for what?
Think about it.
To do what? Wait around for Deontay Wilder to give you the time of day again so that you can make less money than you stand to make right here and now with Anthony Joshua? Turn down Anthony Joshua for what exactly? To fight more guys like Travis Kaufman for a couple $100,000? More guys like Christian Hammer for a couple $100,000? If anyone were to advise Luis Ortiz, given his age and his particular set of circumstances, if anybody were to advise him to turn down this opportunity, walk away from this fight, if they were to advise him to do that, why would they be advising him to do that? Whose best interests would they be looking out for if they advised Luis Ortiz to not take up this chance?
Why would they do that?
Would they be looking out for Ortiz, or would they be looking out for themselves? And whatever interests they have, whatever personal interests they have in seeing that fight made or making sure that it isn't. What exactly would be the benefit of walking away from this kind of a situation for Luis Ortiz? This is what I mean when I say that a lot of the fans, they don't think about these situations in real world terms. In many ways, they dehumanize the fighters because they don't realize that, you know, these are real people with real families to feed, and this is their bread and butter. These kinds of opportunities are at times a lucky turn of chance. They don't always come around.
No, they don't.
You don't always end up in a situation where you can make massive amounts of money, a 7-figure payday. You know, for every fighter that gets a 7-figure payday, there are likely 10 or 20 fighters that don't. So for a guy like Luis Ortiz, where time is of the essence, you're not going to be able to do this forever. You do have a family to feed, so on and so forth. Fans dehumanizing the situation on their channels when they discuss the particulars of this set of negotiations, for lack of a better word. They don't really realize it because they're dehumanizing the fighters. The fighters are no more real to them than the images displayed on their laptops, desktops, or phones. It's not real to them, but to the fighter, it's real. To the fighter, it's very real. The money is real, the benefits are real, and life after boxing is very real. So, what I'm inviting you guys to do, listening to this video, is ask yourselves, for what reason on earth could there be, for a man Luis Ortiz's age, where time is of the essence, for what reason in the world, what good reason can you give for him to walk away from a fight like that, where he stands to make that kind of money, when you've already fought, likely, for way less than what you're going to be offered? He fought Deontay Wilder for a couple $100,000.
About 500.
For one world title and a couple $100,000.
500,000.
What was it? $500,000 or something like that? Those were the recorded purses. You know, Wilder made $2.1 million and Luis Ortiz made nowhere near that. You were willing to walk into a situation like that. So what reason on earth can you give to not walk into this situation where you stand to make substantially more than you made with Deontay Wilder, and instead of just fighting for one world title, you get to fight for 3. Instead of just it being you versus Wilder, it gets to be you versus the guy who you claim, your words, is protected and doesn't want to fight anybody. It appears he wants to fight you. So what are you going to do about that? So in closing, ladies and germs, I'm not even trying to convince you that I'm the patron saint of what benefits a boxer. I'm not trying to convince you that I'm so concerned with Luis Ortiz's family or his life after boxing and what he stands to make. I'm not trying to convince you that I'm concerned with that. Quite honestly, I'm probably no more concerned with that than you are. I'm not concerned with that, but Luis Ortiz, well, that's different. Luis Ortiz, if he's not, he should be.
Because you're old.
It's not about whether or not the guy on Ring IQ is concerned with that kind of stuff. It's not about that. I'm not concerned with that. But Luis Ortiz, he should be. I think he is. And if he really is, there's little to no reason for him to turn down this opportunity. It don't matter how you slice it. Now, another fun little tidbit I noticed in regards to this entire fiasco, not immediately relating to the fighters so much as the fans, the quote-unquote fans of the fighters. You know, for the longest time, there's been this push for Anthony Joshua to fight Luis Ortiz. A lot of people out there claiming that Anthony Joshua was avoiding Luis Ortiz, that he ducked that fight, that those guys should have fought a long time ago, yada, yada, yada. A lot of people who in recent memory were campaigning for Luis Ortiz to get an Anthony Joshua fight. Yet right now, what we're seeing from those same people is a full 180. Now, all of a sudden, they don't want that fight. They've got other suggestions, like that ass clown, Boxing Ego. A guy who will not answer a direct question if it is posed to him, a direct question that challenges his perspective based on facts. A guy who would readily hit the block button to nut the fuck up and answer a question. That kind of guy. This guy's sitting there offering up alternatives, other volunteers to fill in for Jarrell Miller. When I'm thinking, isn't this one of the guys that wanted to see Luis Ortiz fight Anthony Joshua? What happened? Why is it that these guys can never keep the same fucking energy? They never keep the same energy. It's the same fucking thing we saw with the Rigo versus Loma fight, I swear to God. It's the same fucking thing. You're happy campaigning for the fight when the fight is not viable. When the fight is not viable, these guys can't shut the fuck up about a fight. But once the fight is viable, once there is actually a window of opportunity for the fight to be made, all of a sudden the energy changes. The rhetoric changes. I think that all these guys that you've been seeing week by week, month by month, claiming that they wanted Anthony Joshua to fight Luis Ortiz, I think that those guys, they never wanted that fight. They just used it as an avenue to talk shit because all they really want to do is talk shit. It's the only thing they're mildly good at. They don't actually want to know if Anthony Joshua has what it takes to beat Luis Ortiz. They supposedly hold him in such high regard, such high esteem. That's supposedly, their opinion on Luis Ortiz. And up until this point, we've seen a lot of energy poured into campaigning for Anthony Joshua to fight Luis Ortiz. Yet here we stand on the precipice of what could be that fight. And who do you see offering up alternatives, not including Luis Ortiz? Who do you see? The same motherfuckers that were saying Joshua should fight him. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't want to know. I've been telling you guys this throughout video after video. The same way they don't really want to know if Wilder has what it takes to beat Anthony Joshua is the same way they don't really want to know if Luis Ortiz has what it takes to beat Anthony Joshua. Because if it comes out the opposite, if they end up being wrong, well, you will have spent months and months and video after video pouring all this energy into that conversation just so you could be fucking wrong. Same shit as the Rigo versus Loma shit. It's the exact same shit. They spent all that time and all that energy talking all that shit just for the guy, the pony in the show that you was backing, to fucking quit. You don't want to have to go through that again. You don't want to have to go through that with Wilder. So you might pretend that you want to see that fight, but you don't really want to know. And the same applies to Luis Ortiz. You might pretend that you want to see that fight, but in reality, you don't want to know. You don't want to go through what Rigo put you through, because that was a lot of mud in you guys' eye. And that's a fact. I mean, why else would this guy be offering up alternatives to stand in for Luis Ortiz? Like, don't you want to see Ortiz finally swap punches with Anthony Joshua? It's now or never, because Luis Ortiz isn't getting any younger. And if he doesn't jump on this opportunity, Anthony Joshua may be mandated to fight several other fighters. Other fighters like Pulev, other fighters like Usyk. The guy does have 3 belts. 3 belts, 3 mandatories. Right here, we see a window of opportunity for a voluntary, a voluntary like Luis Ortiz, who I thought y'all wanted to see fight Anthony Joshua. Doesn't look that way. Why can these guys never keep the same energy? I'll tell you why. Because they're as temperamental as fucking girls. I wouldn't be shocked if these guys got hot flashes. The way these guys act with boxing is tantamount to the way girls act with restaurants. They want to go to a restaurant, they just don't know which one or what they want to eat when they get there. And in the case of guys like Boxing Ego and guys that subscribe to his school of thought, 1 minute you're crying and complaining that Anthony Joshua has not fought Luis Ortiz. Yet when the fight presents itself, when there's actually a window of opportunity for the fight to happen, what do? You start throwing out alternatives like you don't even want to see that fight. It has truly got to be a tortured existence, a truly tortured existence for a boxing fan to have to pick up the goalpost and move it so much. You can't settle on anything. You can't stand by your word at any time at all. You cannot keep the same energy that you may have had as soon as yesterday because your fickle nature requires you to move the goalpost. You have to do it. You can't stand by anything you say because what you say doesn't mean anything. And I think what these guys are truly afraid of, I think what they're running from, is that if Luis Ortiz, who really is the crown jewel, the emerald of Wilder's entire professional career, because in 41 fights, that's the most solid guy that he fought. You know, it's not even about disparaging Ortiz so much as realizing that Wilder's been a professional boxer for about 11 years. He's fought in 41 professional contests. He's been around for the Klitschko era, both the Klitschkos. But all he's got to show for it is, one green belt that he didn't win from Vitaly, titles that he never unified, and the name of Luis Ortiz. And I think what these guys are afraid of is that if Luis Ortiz goes in there with Anthony Joshua and Anthony Joshua dispatches him in better fashion than Wilder did, that's going to be yet another testament to how much better than Wilder Joshua is. I mean, we saw the Eric Molina fight. We saw both of those guys fight Eric Molina. And bear in mind that I do not opt for triangle theories. I don't. Styles make fights. But these guys actually do opt for triangle theories. And that's why they are sitting here afraid that Luis Ortiz might actually get that fight. Because they feel in their heart of hearts that if Ortiz doesn't give Joshua all the problems that he gave Wilder, well then Luis Ortiz must not be that good. Because you guys diminish Anthony Joshua every 10 seconds.
Calling him a hype.
Well, how much merit is there in your critiques if the same guy that you diminish every so often makes short work of a guy that you supposedly have a high opinion of? I'll tell you, to be completely honest, it has to be a truly tortured existence to be that kind of a boxing fan.